Hello everybody, thank you for coming back to the channel and welcome to this new chapter on the building of the Downer Spitfire. So the plan for this chapter is to build the wings, at least one, and I've already started to cut out the parts. So you see here some of the ribs, there's the leading edges. I'm doing it all in pairs because it's two wings, right, and I only have one wing drawn out anyhow, so I have to anyhow like build one wing and then the other. First issue I find is that I don't know if you can see it over here, we have the leading edge, but then when I put it on the wing itself, it's like maybe an eighth of an inch, or like 3-4 millimeters, maybe even 5 millimeters short. So I don't know if I'm going to need to do it again, probably. Basically what I'm going to do first is cut out all the pieces that I can. As you see, I also have here some trailing edge pieces that also here. I also need to cut out the spars. Here the spars, there's a rear spar and a main spar, and I've got to figure out how everything goes together, because I see some things, I don't know if you can see it, but for example on rib G, which I think is the last one, there also seems to be a slot for the secondary spar, the rear spar, but on the plan it doesn't seem to get there. So I've got to figure things out. Here in this area where it crosses with the fuselage, I don't know if you can see it here at the top of the screen, I'm not exactly sure what is a rib and what is a stringer from the fuselage, so I've got to give it some thought, which is all well and good. And what else do we have? So yeah, basically cut out the parts, lay them together. Probably the outside, like the leading edge and the trailing edge, I can actually glue in shape, and then start to build in the ribs and the main spar and the spars in place, and then let's see how it comes out, right? For dihedral, it's indicated by, let's see if I show you on the model, by this piece. As you see, the dihedral is already somehow indicated. So I've got to build a spar that actually joins here, and there's a slight overlap also. I don't know exactly how much, but there is an overlap. Yes, there's an overlap of maybe like a bay and a half. So actually the spar glues onto this. So hopefully it'll then have enough strength. Now, one thing that I've had a couple of comments and questions about is about how do we transfer the shape from the plan to the wood, and I think there are multiple techniques. I think each of us kind of develops what we want. What I've come across or up with or whatever is I use masking tape. This is the masking tape used by painters, and it's kind of the cheapest thing I can get. And what I do, I've got plastic on the plan, and then I have A, B, C, so now D. I want to go for rib number D, or letter D, and then here with a pencil, sharp pencil, I just trace it out as accurately as I can, and this does take a bit of practice and trial and error to make it really as accurate as one can, because it's not a print, right? Like if we are nowadays, we're used to the laser cut models, and on top of it with the whole camera assembly on top, then it's more difficult. So basically I trace it out, and again it depends on what kind of tape you have. With some tapes it's easier to draw on them and others aren't, so you have to also experiment. Some tapes are kind of waxed, so then it's harder to draw with them with a pencil, or you could use a pen, maybe a felt tip pen, a thin pen or something could also work. And then what I do, I find a piece of wood that fits. This one not yet. I try to use all the scraps up I can. I'm collecting a lot of scraps actually, so no, these are still too small. And then basically what I do, then I peel it off, and as you can see, the whole rib is marked there, maybe not as perfect as I would like to have it. And then I find a space on the wood. There's a 1.5 millimeter that where it fits, and as the paper is the tape is somehow translucent or transparent, I can put it in its place. And the only risk here is that with the very long pieces the paper does deform, so you have to be very careful how you put it on. Well, not very careful, but you have to just be mindful of that. And now I have the shape of the rib on the wood. Now I'm going to cut. I'm not going to do it on camera, but then I'll cut with a sharp knife through the tape and the wood, and then I have one, and then I use the first one I do to trace out on the wood the second one, because this one sticks also very easily and it doesn't damage the wood. So that is basically my process. There are a lot of other processes that can be done. You can cut out the plan itself. I like to keep the plan somehow, not to cut them out, because then it becomes a mess and it's good. I might in the future want to do it again. So I do it like this, but come up with your own way. This is just the way that I figured out works best for me. In any case, so I'll leave you with that, and I'm going to go on cutting ribs. It's quite a long process, and the spars, and starting to assemble. So when I have something, at least starting to assemble something, then I'll give you an update. And finally, some visible progress with the wing. So I've managed to cut out pretty much all the pieces that I need. Here's a pile of pieces. It's going to be for the left wing, and here I have the pieces laid out for the right wing. So now I've got to figure out what is the order of construction, and I might still need some small pieces here. There's some fillets and things like that. I need to extend the leading edge ever so slightly also. So now the challenge is that the spar is not at the bottom, let's say. So if the spar were the bottom, I don't know if you can see actually, if I take, maybe I'll take the other spar, the spar is upright like this. So the cuts in the spar for the ribs actually on the bottom, which means that the spar has to fit onto the ribs from the top. So I can't just, my idea was to actually lay down the spar and then build the ribs on top, but it isn't like that. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to try to put on the outer frame, like glue down the outer frame to basically have some structure in place. Once I have that, then I'm going to see if I maybe put in the ribs actually, and then fit the sparring from underneath, both spars, both the main spar and also the secondary spar, I think it's called. So that is kind of what I'm thinking about. I'm going to have to think about this a little bit more probably. And one more point is that there's one of your comments from DLL Raid, so thank you for that. And we've been having a small conversation about putting in some washout at the wingtip so that it improves the stalling characteristics. Now I'm not sure if I can do that, but what the proposal is to put a little bit of a shim here, maybe an eighth of an inch thick balsa piece, that then will actually lift the trailing edge and make actually the angle of attack of the tip of the wing a little bit lower, so that it still has some lift if it's installed, if it goes into stall, right? So I'm going to try to do it, because why not? But I'm not sure if that shape is going to be retained when the moment comes. That's kind of my fear, right? So I've got to think how I'm going to do it all, because I have fear it's going to be like a construction up in the air, which for the small surfaces on the tail it's okay, but for these they really need to be pretty much as straight as possible and as accurate as possible, because if one wing is different from the other, then it's awkward, let's say it like that, and the lift is going to be different, and then it's just not going to fly basically. So still quite a lot of things to think about there. But I think I'm going to start, not now, but maybe leave it for a day or two, or maybe just tomorrow I'll start to see how I lay down the pieces and see if the wing starts to take shape. A bit of a learning process of this, and hopefully after I do the right wing, then using all these pieces for the left wing is probably going to be better. At least that's what I'm hoping for. But let's see how it goes. I'll share my struggles as I go along. So I've laid out the pieces of the wing. I've already put glue on the outside, let's say on the perimeter, so leading edge, wingtip and trailing edge. There's this other piece actually that then goes into the fuselage. I'm going to leave it at the end. I've also battled a little bit. I've put in former rib A onto the existing spars to see if it fits. I'm a little bit confused because here I don't know if you can see it, but I can have actually either this angle of incidence or this angle of incidence. It depends where I want to have a little bit protruding. I suppose probably higher angle of incidence would give more lift and maybe slower flight. So I might go with that, but I'm not sure at the moment. So I've got to still think about that. And then also the whole construction step is a bit of a question mark for me, because what I can do now, as I was mentioning, I could potentially glue in the ribs, but I can't really do it when the leading edge and trailing edge are on the plan, because they're not flat. The ribs are not flat at the bottom, as you might be able to observe. they've got of course their under camber. So from that perspective, I think what I'm going to have to do, I might build up the structure as I have now. Now I just have it like mocked up together to see if everything fits. And I also realized that there's one piece actually that comes in here. It's drawn on the plan here, so there's a little bit of the spar that goes in here, so I have to kind of reverse engineer that one in place. So I'm thinking of building it, gluing it in place like this shape, then picking up the leading and trailing edge shape of the plan and then fitting this in place. I'm thinking that is maybe the best and maybe the only way to do it, because if not, it's going to be very, very cumbersome. So it's, in any case, it seems to be like an air build, what I call them, an air build, that you don't build on the plan but you build up in the air and hope that everything actually fits and is square. So I'll give it a bit more thought, but I think that's how I'm going to go forward. And let's see, once I have that, then it's going to be then the challenge to how to connecting the base rib or rib number A, and then actually to make sure that it all fits onto these pieces of the fuselage. If I actually just mock it up, got to be careful not to break anything, this should in theory, one goes in front, one goes in the back, I think. So this should in theory somehow fit like this, which it kind of does, but it needs a little bit of pressure. So anyhow, a little bit of a battle going on here with making things fit and making them straight, which they aren't completely, as you can see. So I'll battle this around and then I'll give you some update. And here's the mock-up of the wing onto the fuselage. Let's see if you can see it. As you see, the outer part of the wing, like the trailing edge and leading edge, is not on it yet. And what I've done, this is not glued, I just mocked it up. Let's see if I can just take it off without hurting it, which is always a bit of a challenge. So what I've done, I've glued the ribs onto the spars, trying to keep the shape, but also as I was finishing off and looking at it again, then I realized, I don't know if you can see it, that this, the smallest rib close to the wingtip, is actually got a very different angle of attack, and it actually has the opposite of what I was looking for, right? It would have been better if it has a lower angle of attack to do the washout, but it's actually increased angle of attack. So the other ribs are kind of in line, not perfect, you can't really see it, but there's a little bit of misalignment on this one, on rib D, but this one is the big problem. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm afraid, is going to kind of amputate this one, make the hole, redo the rib, tracing it out again, and see if I can get it this time to be more aligned with the others and maybe even pointing more down, like to have a lower angle of attack in normal flight, so that it helps in case it gets close to stalling. So I'm going to leave it now here, because no, this is going to drag on a lot and there's still quite a lot to be done. So as I say, next step is going to be amputate, remove the rib, adding another one, put in the other extension of the rear spar, of the secondary spar, and then hopefully eventually put also the outside frame to the wing. So, but that'll be then on the next chapter. So leaving it here. Thank you everybody for following along and for all your tips and comments and all your, basically your time that you're spending watching me, and I'll see you next time.